Hello and welcome to today's episode of Comms Business Live, where we'll be diving into customer-based migrations. I'm Charlotte, editor of Comms Business, and I'm delighted to be joined by Scott Goodwin, Managing Director of NetSapiens, and Jonathan Walker, Managing Director of Connecting Britain. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte. Good to see you again.
You too. Thanks for finding the time to chat to me today. So today we're going to be diving into the reality that the unified communications market has reached maturity with mass adoption across the globe. Service providers might occasionally find they need to migrate their customer bases to a different vendor within this kind of crowded marketplace. And in that scenario, the customer migration needs to be achieved with minimal end user disruption and a low administrational burden. So first up, going back to basics, why would a service provider potentially seek to migrate their customer base?
Shall I go first?
Yeah. That sounds great.
I think there's a couple of reasons. I think all vendor and service provider partnerships, they seek to have long-term lasting relationships, but for some reasons, these times that might not actually happen. So, service providers might see that there is some inconsistency with the vendor, that, goalposts sometimes might shift, that margins often get eroded as a consequence of those shifts in effectively the kind of proposition of the vendor as well. And I guess customer bases themselves adapt over time as well, where there might be a need for, other things that they currently don't get in their existing supply chain.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think the capabilities, you can have your account with one particular vendor, and then they can't offer the services that your customer base then needs. So I think more and more companies have a better understanding of hosted systems and what it takes, what feature sets their customers need. So I think that make migration. I think a lot of customers are on legacy PBXs or they're on legacy hosted systems. And I think if you look at the products that are now available on the market, there's significant upgrades available these days. And I think that's one of the key points for thinking about a migration product.
Yeah, and I think a service provider as well, it's kind of incumbent upon them to make sure that their customers, effectively the end users, are served with the best applicable solution in the market.
Yeah, I think exactly things like resilience, for example, is that end customers now need to have solutions that aren't going to go down, are going to stay up for that period of time. So that resilience piece was such a big factor for us when we looked to migrate.
Yes, definitely. So really, when we're thinking about service providers, the need to migrate generally will always come down to just listening to customer needs and reacting to what customers are requesting or issues that they might be having day to day.
Yeah.
Cool. And then once you've kind of made the decision to make that migration to work with a different vendor, why is it important to kind of think about the overriding strategy behind the migration to make that a success?
I think you need to have a really resolute plan, to be honest. You need to have a plan in terms of what that looks like moving forward. What is the experience that your end customers and the end users are going to have? And making sure that's mapped out as, again, a plan in terms of, but also making sure that the end customers know what's happening, why the transfer has happened, why are they now going to get a new product, and the real benefits it will give the end users. Because 9 times out of 10, an MSP is going to move to a vendor for a value add, for an improvement of the services being offered to their end customers. So I think making that really clear to that end customer population is so important.
Definitely. And is there anything you'd add there, Scott?
Yeah, I'd just echo what John says, really. I think, these migrations can be complicated. I think the best way to address them is to try and make them as uncomplicated as you can. Yeah. As you say, by doing the preparation work, understanding who your customers are, what are the kind of service sets that they've got, making it explicit to them about the rationale for why you're doing this and the benefits it brings to them. and then just being resolute in kind of just seeing it through, really. I think again, where I've seen it work the best is where they've set clear expectations and timelines with those partners, and then they've just kind of pushed it through, really. Because I guess there are sometimes always bumps in the road in these things, but they're soon forgotten if the solution was delivered quickly and effectively.
I think a lot of the time you can split your customer base up into certain demographics. So for us, we have customers that are, for example, have high tech customers. So they want to have access to the portals, the platform, want to know about every single feature. And then we have customers that basically just want dial tone and just want the endpoint. That is it, and they just want a handset. So your strategy and plan for migrating those customers will vary based on the demographic of customers that you're talking to. But as Scott said, having that plan and having that timescale is really important to start moving customers across from one platform to another.
And I don't think it has to be as daunting as some people would fear either. I think if it's managed properly and you've got those communication strategies in place, is that they can run surprisingly smoothly.
Well, I think if you look at, for example, mobile phone customers, porting, for example, in mobiles or switching to networks has been commonplace really throughout that industry for a long time. Where with us, we've got to make it so it's really simple for customers to move. And yes, there's more factors that need to be involved, but I think you can learn a lot of lessons from how you would transfer a mobile customer across with a hosted customer.
And both of you have kind of touched on a few different ways that you might go about handling these migrations. But I just wanted to ask both of you kind of whether there's kind of any particular best practice you'd point to in achieving those migrations.
So one again is making that plan, understanding what that looks like, understanding the timescales that you believe that you can move that across. Communicating those timescales, and also doing the migration in batches. So, for example, you agree customers that you're going to move by a certain date, and then you'll focus on those customers. Communicating with customers all the way through the process. So, telling them what's happening, almost having a countdown of emails to say, we're going to move you on this day. You've got 4 days remaining, 3 days remaining until we migrate, and also having the technical support to be able to help the customers with any teething products, for example, enhanced SLAs for tickets, anything during the time of move, and that way making sure customers are happy before you move on to the next migration is the key points. But also as well, there's a sell involved in terms of explaining the enhanced feature set, what else they're getting when they migrate, to make sure that they, as Scott said, pushing it through, but also make the end customers really want to get involved and feel engaged with the migration.
I was going to say, Charlotte, John's much more at the pointy edge of the sword when it comes to these migrations. But one of the things that we try and do at NetSapiens is give John the tools that help migrations go much smoother. So, for instance, we support a vast array of SIP devices as well. I think it's something close to 29 manufacturers, something like 300 different device types themselves. That allows migrations to move quickly because people aren't having to change things. You're not just migrating something and then asking them to change a handset, for instance, that might have a financial consequence as part of that. Another thing that we do well at NetSapiens is that we give our providers the ability to clone an existing service provider in all its formats. So making it, the same star hash codes exist on the new platform as it did in the old platform, which really kind of lowers the resistance from customers because they're not having to change anything. It's a combination of those various different bits and pieces with great communication about these things aren't going to be inhibiting to your organization moving forward, that makes life a lot easier for people.
Yeah, I think something I touched on Scott's on NetSapiens approach there as well. I think what really helped us from when we moved to the NetSapiens platform is that the speed of deployment, so that you can, for example, you can have a migration plan. you can spin up or create your own domains or tenants within your platform, and you can build your customers as you go. You're not waiting or weren't waiting for NetSapiens as a service provider to allow access. Everything could be done within minutes via our own platform portal, which was a massive help for us.
And it sounds like for both of you, kind of the key to all of this is really just making sure that the customers are at the center of your strategy and that you're kind of guiding them on their way, so that, like you've both touched on, they're focusing on the benefits of the shift more than anything else.
Correct, yeah. And I think also as well that timescale had been really, really honest and look, we are going to migrate you across. These are the benefits. Here are the timescales.
Yeah.
Let's get you on board, because I think that when you don't give a timescale, that's when the migration drags on, and then that's not the benefit of the customer, the partner, or yourself really. That it doesn't benefit anyone. So it's quicker to have that plan to get the migration underway.
Yeah, so it's kind of being transparent, but also making sure you've got hard commitments against your strategy.
Yeah,
and try and make it as frictionless as possible for the end user.
Yeah,
definitely. And as we've touched on a few points there, Connected Britain has real experience with a customer-based migration. So John, why did your company feel it needed to take this step, and how did you kind of go about it?
For us, we were looking for a platform that had an enhanced feature set. I think that in the UK market, there's a few players that control a lot of the population of seats, and I think it's turned into a little bit of a race to the bottom. We were selling the same product as pretty much every other MSP, so we wanted to do something different. We'd come across the NetSapiens platform and the product set, and I think for me, the feature set and what it allows you to do, build your own product sets, fully white labeled solution, was something that was quite unique within the UK market. Keen to move that across, and also from a resilience point of view, NetSapiens, pretty much at 99.9% now, pushing for that 100% resilience and 100% uptime. And I just think that was unrivaled for us. We'd had previous problems of downtime, and we'd actually lost some end customers by periods of outages. So for us, it was really, really important that we could stand behind our platform and weren't worried about whether it was going to go down or not. That was a massive plus for us.
That sounds great. And kind of looking to the future, obviously no one's hoping for a customer-based migration, but it sounds like for the both of you, you feel like service providers just need to remain kind of open to the possibility that a migration might be necessary at some point in the future. So do you expect these to kind of be a challenge for the service provider community, or do you think that companies will just become more reactive to the need to potentially do this?
Well, I see a couple of things going on, Charlotte. So there's migrations that are happening as a consequence of M&A activity. Yes. So we're in a very active market right now where I guess it's close to 30 years after liberalization, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have built businesses that are now seeking to find an exit and enjoy their time in the sun. They've built up good businesses with good recurring revenue streams. And there are lots of active buyers in the market, predominantly fueled by private equity that is seeking to basically do a roll-up. But no individual business looks the same. They're all slightly different, really. So you're seeing that kind of activity that's going on. We are seeing certainly the benefits from being a great solution in which to consolidate your activities on, for the reasons that I kind of touched on earlier. So you're seeing that particular dynamic, but you're also starting to see that in this sort of mass adoption phase, that those early adopters that signed up their first 3-year contracts terms, from an end user perspective, small to medium sized enterprises, those 3-year terms are coming up, and those guys expect something else. So from an end user perspective, you've not just got the kind of, I guess, the mass majority that are going into the cloud, but you've also got the early adopters that are going into the cloud, and they're seeking to see what value can I get at that point. And that's driving the underlying vendor to make sure that they've got a good story to tell as part of that thing. And that's driving many of them to go and look at the market as a whole, about what is new out there. What can I get hold of that can provide my existing customers something different to what I've had before? So I've got something other than price just to talk to them about. So I mean, from my point, those are the big issues that I see.
Yeah, I think that's it. The value add piece is so important. I think for us now, we have a product set that allows us to build specific product sets for our clients, and also, as Scott mentioned about the renewal piece, you know, when you're offering the same product all the time, the only thing you've got really to give to your customers is a price discount or reduction.
Yeah.
So your ongoing revenues, your revenue streams are being reduced. So for us, I think is the best approach for our customers and our partners actually is to give them a product set where they are different and unique within the marketplace, and that helps to maintain that value, that revenue value that we all want and we all need.
Yes, definitely. And like you've both touched on, that kind of renewal period is kind of a natural time when customers will think about whether another 3 years works for them, or if there's features that they might be missing, or if they've spotted someone being able to do something else using a different product. That's when questions come up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that renewal as well, in terms of resilience, etc. They're the questions when the end customers are, well, your platform went down, or we need something from you, we need a new product, etc. And if you're not in a position to offer that because you're still trading on your legacy PBX, that is when you're going to come in problems, and you're going to lose those clients in the renewal situation.
Or you're going to absolutely take a bath on your margin.
Well, that's it. Yes, it's a lose-lose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the time where, as you've both pointed out, it's better to be pragmatic and make smart choices with the future in mind. Yeah,
I think there's a lot of providers that are feeling a little bit trapped, to be honest. And I think in terms of that, as I speak to partners, every day, you say, look, I'm not happy where I am. I'm looking for something different, but the migration, I just don't know where to start. And I think it's key. So we have, as I said, we've got a team in-house that helps partners to migrate their base across, manages the marketing piece in terms of the knowledge, and helps to support them to try and make that as a simple process as possible, really.
Yeah, because I think as you've kind of alluded to slightly there, the word migration can just sound a bit scary. And I think it is kind of the stories like we've just talked through of them going well and seamlessly, and with customers kind of having minimal kind of disruption, or even no disruption at all, which can happen nowadays. It's just kind of being strategic about it, I think is what you've both kind of raised there.
Yeah, and I think I'm been in the industry quite a while now, and I've always been amazed by, I guess, from a sales perspective, how once customers have been acquired, the reluctance for salespeople to go back and talk to their customers as well. How many times customers' contracts expire and move into a rolling 30 days just because people didn't want to pick up the phone and have that new kind of conversation with them, and they are doubly exposed at that point. Where if they had engaged with them, and they engaged with them knowing that they've got some new things in their tool bag, that they've got something new to talk to the customer about. I think that takes a lot of that away for salespeople to have a new, bright, fresh, engaging conversation.
I was just going to say, Scott, that couldn't agree more. And I think that's it about in terms of, taking a bath with the margins. That's also why contracts get rolled, and hopefully they won't notice and just left a 30-day contract, because there's nothing to talk about other than that price reduction that nobody wants to.
Yeah, and when you come to your valuation, John, when you're trying to sell your business and 70% of your base is on 30-day terms, you're not going to get as much for it, anywhere near as much for it as you would do if people have got 18 months on average to go on their new solution. So you can't avoid it. Many people they'll bury their head in the sand and all those kind of things. But you know, ultimately, if you're looking for that great exit, and you're sipping cocktails rather than cold, warm beer in the sun, is you have to address it.
Yeah,
definitely. So thanks to both of you. That does bring us to the end of today's show. Thanks for sharing your experience with us there.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Charlotte. Good to see you again.
You too. And if anyone listening wants to find out more about NetSapiens and how it works with its partners and how Connected Britain has kind of gone about these migrations, there are some links in the video description to lead you on the way. But for now, thank you everyone and goodbye.